our guest today is Nadir. Hopefully, I am saying that right. I watch your YouTube videos. Like, I'm very excited. I feel like you're like a celebrity almost to me. But welcome to our space today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, again, welcome. And yes, this is a community space. So, Nadir is a developer and founder. He works at Ave and Lens Protocol, and he has a successful YouTube channel, which I will link if anybody wants to check that out, where he shares coding tutorials and walkthroughs of Web3 technology. So, very excited to talk to you today. I'd love to start with maybe could you share a little bit about your journey of how you got into coding? And I watched one of your videos on your channel. You had a very interesting story of how you kind of got into the field, and then maybe how you got started in exploring the Web3 space.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting with technology and IT that it allows people from non-traditional backgrounds without professional training to get really great opportunities. Basically, being just self-taught. You have all these really great resources online, and there's so many people that are like even anonymous, completely anonymous, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's more of like, in my opinion, a meritocracy and versus maybe some other careers where it's challenging to kind of get your foot in the door. But here, there's such a strong demand for talented developers that if you can just show that you're good, you can get jobs and you get hired. So I got started just by basically teaching myself how to code using a lot of the Ivy League stuff that was out there. Stanford, Harvard, MIT, all these courses were available for free. So when I found them, it kind of blew my mind that like everyone in the world wasn't taking advantage of those things. So started just teaching myself how to code using all of those online resources. And one thing leads to another, and I've had some really great opportunities so far in my career.
So I wanted to jump right into kind of like decentralized social media, if we could. So for those of us who are kind of like, what even is decentralized social media? Are you able to explain that for us maybe a little bit? Like, what's the difference between something like Twitter and something more decentralized?
I think that there's like a lot of nuance in that, and I would say it's more about that when you're building with like this type of infrastructure that you can add features that just can't be added in something like Twitter. And then there's a lot of, I would say, things that are a result of that infrastructure that by nature just can't be done with traditional centralized infrastructure, mainly around permanence, immutability, censorship resistance, things like that. So if someone decides to like delete your account, for example, and like you're in a country where you said something wrong, or maybe like on Twitter when Elon Musk like tweeted out a few months ago that if you tweet about other social media accounts, then you'll get banned. Like no one has the control to just ban you over like whatever whim that they have that day. Or let's say you're in a country again and you say something that like is against the government, like no one can ban you. If you look at the terms and conditions of like something like Blue Sky, they have the ability to just delete your account. um, no one, like you literally just can't have that happen just because the infrastructure doesn't allow that, because it is permanent infrastructure. Like anything that happens, the only person that can control that is you, in terms of like deletion and like whatever deletion in the sense of something like a decentralized social media would be more like burning an account or something. The only person that can do that is you. So I think a lot of creators that spend 5, 10 years of their lives like building out their following would sleep much better at night knowing that they could wake up the next morning and not have all of their shit just completely deleted. And a lot of people are interested in building their following on something like Lens because of that. Even if it's like not their main platform today, just having it there, like to have just in case, and also simultaneously building out their audience there is a big thing. Another thing is just native monetization. if you want to monetize in different ways, either by paying people or getting paid or doing things that are allowing creators to kind of connect, there is no native like payment methods that are built into these platforms. You typically have to have a payment provider, and then like 99% of the time, that payment provider isn't compatible with all of the people in your following, because you have people that follow you and you follow them from all around the world. In order to get paid, like you might have to set up some really complicated like system where they either have PayPal or whatever payment provider is in their country that integrates with whatever you have. Anyway, there's just all types of stuff that doesn't make that possible um, through like traditional software infrastructure. But because blockchains natively have payments built in, I can send anyone a payment anywhere in the world without anyone's permission. All I need is an address, and vice versa. If you actually build that into the system, it becomes really, really cool what you end up seeing being able to like be done. So for instance, we have all types of examples of creators that are putting out their content. And if you want to support them or you want to have some type of um, financial interaction with them, it's just a click of a button and the payment goes directly from you to them, and they are able to easily monetize their content. So an example of that is like we have recently a musician who had like a track from like 2017 that they had not dropped because it was just something that was, that they had built, and it wasn't like one of their main, I guess, releases. And they decided to drop it on Lens and say, like, hey, if you want to support me, this is a song that I created a while back, and you can collect it for like $1. And I think they had like 2,500 people collect that, and it took him just like 3 or 4 minutes to post it. So he made like 2,500 bucks on that drop directly through Lens. All of that money goes directly into his wallet. We've had creators that have made up to upwards of like $35,000 on a what would be considered a tweet on Twitter, but on Lens it's just a post, and they attach like a monetary value to that. And when you think of like collectibles on and blockchain, you might think of like an NFT that's like $10,000. That's out of the reach of like 99.99% of the people. But at scale, you don't need a $10,000 like amount. You only need like 50 cents or 10 cents or $1, and it immediately becomes accessible to everyone in the world to support their creators. And if you have like a collect, which in the example of the one that was like, I think it was like 35,000 bucks or so he made, it was like a $2 collect. And he had like, I forgot the exact number, but over 10,000 people like collect that. And then that ended up being, a large amount of money. And it just took like a few moments for him to post the message that he posted on Lens. So the built-in monetization is cool. Having this type of infrastructure allows every developer in the world to build on it also, meaning that there are a lot more options with the apps that you can have using the exact same social graph. So with Twitter builds the app, and they also build the front end, and then they build out all these different weird like gated APIs that people can use. And then they change them, and then they change the pricing. So if you want to build like a front end, you'll never be able to have the full API access that Twitter has. But on a protocol, like the entire point is to build out an open API that everyone in the world can use. That means that if you have an idea for an app, you can build it, and you have full access to everything, and it's never going to change because it's on chain. It's just literally that data is there forever. So you don't have to worry about going to sleep at night and Twitter deciding to just destroy your business, which they've done countless times, multiple different like waves of restructuring their APIs. I remember like back 10 years ago or so, they shut down like a lot of multi-million dollar businesses that were like building out high quality apps on Twitter, because they just knew that attention was being drawn away from their app. So they just change it, and just all those people go out of business. But if you build an app on a protocol, you know that no one has that control because it's by nature built into the actual software. So developers are building out their own experiences, and then creators and people that are like the actual users, they have all of this diversity of applications that they can create on, and all of that creativity is being targeted all at the same audience. So it's not like you go from Twitter to one audience to TikTok to another one to YouTube to another one, and you have to kind of build out all of these separate networks. They all accrue across all of these different apps. That's just a few different things I would just call out, I guess.
Yeah, that was a lot. You had me at our social uh like identity, or like our social profiles wouldn't just get deleted randomly by these platforms. Um what I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit deeper, and this might seem like a really stupid question, but for anybody else listening, if you have questions, feel free to come up and ask as well. There are, I guess, I want to say there are no stupid questions, but um, so with Lens Protocol, what is Lens Protocol? Is it like the database? Could you explain what Lens is and like how somebody could get started on Lens in like maybe like simple terms?
Yeah, for sure. So Lens is basically a set of smart contracts at the very base level, and then for developers, the reason that it's becoming really popular is that we've built out a lot of developer tooling and APIs and SDKs on top of the protocol that enable developers to build highly polished, like really performant web and mobile apps without having to build or understand or deal with backend technologies. They can just be a front end developer and build. For instance, we have really high quality mobile apps with just a team of just a single one developer, because all they have to do is understand front end development, and they are able to kind of like get all of the things that they need out of an app without having to build out the back end. So at the very like core of it, it's basically a set of smart contracts with APIs that are built on top of those contracts and on top of that data that allow developers to easily have access to a lot of different types of data from the interactions that are happening on that on those APIs and on those smart contracts. So, if you think of again something like Twitter, Lens Protocol would be the database of Twitter that everyone in the world could use. And instead of there just being one front end, there would be a lot of different people building out different front ends that would be comparable to something like Twitter, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And just another one on like what you had talked about before. So creators, you talked about a musician or someone that created music and posted a drop, and for $1, and like 2,000 people kind of like collected it. Is there a lot right now of people like using it in that way, or like um you also said like a Twitter post, so like musicians, writers, like what is there like podcasts and stuff, or what kind of like creators are using it?
Yeah, I would say Adam Levy is a podcaster that's somewhat well known in this space. He uses Lens a lot. We have tons of different like musicians, artists. We have people that are doing like um, all types of stuff. Really, I would say. Um, Even people that are like doing adult type of stuff. I mean, it's just such a wide spectrum of creators, and yeah, they're all using it to connect with their audience and often to monetize. And but what ends up happening is like all of this stuff is available for free for anyone to listen to or to use or to consume. So you end up having like a very large amount of creative content that is there. So you see a lot of art, you see a lot of music, you see a lot of creativity. That you, I would say it's more of that than what you would see on like another social media platform. So yeah, totally. A lot of people are using it for that, but also it goes the other way around because all these payments and stuff are built directly into the platform. You can also use it for like what you might consider advertising or from promotions, or to monetarily incentivize interactions directly through the platform for a creator that might be trying to get their, like, I don't know, their ideas out there, that they've had a hard time doing so on something like Twitter. So, for instance, there is an application called Waves that allows you to set a amount or a bounty almost on your publication, and then anyone that interacts with that gets paid, and you can set rules around that. So what this looks like in practice is, if I had $10 and I wanted to get 100,000 eyeballs on a piece of software I just released, I could put a bounty out there on this app that said, anyone that has 10,000 followers can share this, and they'll receive like 10 cents. And then with $10, that would equal, like, I don't know, 10,000 times 100. That would be, I don't know. Anyway, you could do the math there, and you could come up with all different types of calculations where you might pay $1 or $10, and you might change that number of followers to be something else. But you can do that directly through the platform. And for me, like, if I see a bounty of like $1, and all I have to do is like click something, and as long as what they're sharing isn't like spam or, like, something, like, I'm gonna do it. It's just like that simple. Like, I'm gonna click a button to make $1. Yeah, like, why wouldn't I do that? And if someone's following me and they get annoyed by that, they can always just had a coming in. Anyway, so you can do this stuff directly through the platform. There's been a lot of cool bounties that I'm sorry, a lot of cool hackathon submissions actually that we got through ETH Lisbon that are going to be going live on Lens in a couple of weeks. One was this app that allows you to set like a what was it? It was almost like a lottery on following you. Um, and you could basically say, like, anyone that follows me gets entered in to win like $100 or something like that, and then at the end, the money gets like dispersed through all the people that followed you during that time. I don't know. There's all types of like gamification and fun stuff like that that people are doing, and it's really cool to see, like, how differentiating I think it is than some of the other stuff that's out there, because you have this native built-in mechanism around that. So, I think you see Farcaster, and you've seen Blue Sky, and then there was one other one I forgot that kind of came out there, and they all seem to kind of be like fighting over the same like group of users, whereas we have like a completely segmented like group of creators that are all like flourishing, and I would say sticking around and doing really well, that are not really enticed by just a group of like techies that jump from one platform to the other that offers like the exact same thing. Like, if you go to some of these other platforms, like 90% of the conversations are like people saying how much Twitter sucks. Whereas, like, we don't really talk about shit like that. We're out there like creating cool shit and like doing cool stuff. Not to throw shade on some of these other platforms, because like they're all great in their own way, and all that. But I guess what I'm just trying to say is like the differentiating stuff.
Yeah, that honestly sounds pretty good. I'm gonna have to check it out more myself personally. But I wanted to open it up to Mariana or Paul Rita. Did you guys have any questions? And then also for anybody in the audience, if you have any questions about decentralized social media, Lens protocol, questions for Nadir at all, feel free to either, you can, if you don't feel like coming up, you can write them in the comments, or of course you can come up on stage. It's up to you. But Mariana, Paul Rita, love to hear from you guys too.
Hi. Well, hi, Nader. It's so good to have you today. You have so much experience on this. So, yeah, my question is related to the Lens protocol. I mean, not exactly Lens protocol, but the all the platforms that you can build with Lens protocol. Because I'm curious about. We know in Web 2, most of platforms make money from advertising. So I'm curious about the business model for these new platforms in decentralized platforms. How do you make money? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have some I would say like really detailed announcements and stuff that are coming out around how Lens itself will be monetizing in the near future. Some of the stuff that we're focused on now are making the platform very inexpensive and scalable. So those costs in order to maintain everything are actually really low, and therefore our monetization doesn't have to be like crazy. So one of the things that we recently rolled out about 3 weeks ago is a new infrastructure that is called Momoka, where in the past everything was going on Polygon. The reason that we needed to go on chain is because we want all of these features. We want immutability, we want permanence, we want censorship resistance. But instead of using a quote unquote like financial blockchain where you literally like this is it's completely pointless, honestly, to save shit on a blockchain like a post or a comment. It's just kind of, in my opinion, like dumb because like why would you restrict yourself to such a costly infrastructure that you don't even really like need this global consensus for every state change for something that is essentially just data storage. So like imagine storing a file somewhere and then I store a file somewhere, my friend stores a file somewhere. Like we don't all need to agree on the current value of any state transition, and therefore the constraints that a blockchain puts into place for that are unnecessarily restrictive and costly and slow. So we moved away from that, and we have, but we still needed the permanence and the mutability. But what if we could have that and an infrastructure um, that was made specifically for that? I guess you could say. So we moved away to a new infrastructure that offers those I would say characteristics, and we have like tested it and been testing it for like 4 or 5 months. I think in Lisbon we showed that there was like around 70,000 transactions, and the cost for those transactions was around $25. Still a lot more expensive than something like AWS or something like that, but if you look at like something like Ethereum, it's I mean shit, people were paying that much for a single transaction. Um, like a single transaction. So you could say that it's like at that point 75,000 times cheaper than a blockchain L1. And then if you look at something like Polygon, which is obviously really great and all that, but still it's around 1,000 times or up to 1,000 times cheaper on the average day than that. And it's also a lot more scalable. So it's uh, most blockchains, even like all this bullshit that people will tell you, oh, we do like tens of thousands of transactions per second. It's actually bullshit. Like no one's actually proven that like in practice. The most that you'll actually see are like in the range of hundreds over the course of like a long period of time that's been tested in real like a real world scenario. Maybe a few thousand, but we need to be like at 50,000. That's where we would like to be. And the new infrastructure that we're at is closer to like 30,000 transactions per second. So like it's thousands of times, like, like if you look at the actual numbers, better. And it's been something that we've been testing for like 4 or 5 months. We rolled out. So in order to monetize, we first had to figure that out. And now that we've figured that out, we're going to be making some announcements soon. We've also already had apps that are doing really well. They're fundraising. We have some stuff that's coming out around how those apps are going to monetize as well. We just had an app that raised at like $20-ish million. And remember, Lens has only been around for like 1 year or so, and it's all still in closed beta. So they're raising at these amounts while we're still in closed beta. We obviously are soon as possible wanting to open this up to everyone in the world so they can use it almost like developers are using Auth0 or AWS Lambda as an infrastructure layer. And it's not people saying, oh, we're using Lens. It's more like, oh, we're building an app. And then you look at the back end and they might be using, you know, this, that, and the other. And then Lens is just one of those things that just happens to be their infrastructure layer.
Oh, great. Well, I get it, and we will follow the updates regarding this matter. So thank you so much for your answer. And I have another question related to, how what's the basic knowledge that you need to start building in Lens? Because I know you are simplifying a lot of things for builders, for developers, but can you tell us a little bit more about this basic knowledge a developer need to start building there?
Yeah, you have to basically be you have to understand front end development in some way. So either native iOS, native Android, JavaScript, TypeScript, React Native, which would be JavaScript or TypeScript. So yeah, you just have to have a front end language and understand how to call HTTP APIs. I think that would be kind of the core. You don't have to know Solidity. You don't have to know smart contract development. You don't have to know backend development. If you have a team, you don't need a backend team. You don't need a database engineer. You don't need infrastructure, DevOps, any of that stuff. You just have to have a front end team. That's kind of the main focus that you're going to be building, because that's like a big value proposition for devs, is that they just don't need the backend skill set at all. And in order to build out the API that we've built, you would need to have like one of the best backend teams in the world anyway. And therefore it's a really big value proposition for devs, because they're essentially getting that type of infrastructure like out of the box for free.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Rita. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, let's move. We'll go Paul, Rita, and then Rushi. We see your hand up as well, so we'll go 1-1, like boom, boom. Paul, Rita, did you want to on mic and if you have a question or opinion on something?
Yes, yes. Hi, Kali. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Hi, Nada. Thank you very much for coming on the space today. Actually, I tried joining the space earlier on, but I don't know. Twitter decided to rug me, and thank God I am finally able to come on. So I'm going to go back and re-listen to like from the beginning of the space. But then one thing that I want to ask, because I heard when you mentioned you were talking about Twitter and stuff like that. And then I know Twitter is Web2, right? And I know that Lens is not the first decentralized social media that we have, but then I think it's the leading, right? If you see like with the hype that is around it, and then it's I personally I don't have a Lens profile. I've been trying to get one for a long time. You get, so I want to ask like what in your opinion, what do you think sets Lens apart from the other decentralized social networks that we have? Would be nice to hear you share that with us.
So which ones are you comparing? I would say, like, are you interested in the comparison for? I
Sorry,
guess
can you say that again?
Mastodon, or are you speaking of like Mastodon or something like Blue Sky, or?
Yeah, we have other decentralized protocol. For example, we have Steemit, right? I think Steemit came around since like 2014, right? We have a lot of other. I've seen them once in a while, but then I just want to know like what is your unique selling point, right? What is the unique selling point of Lens? Why would anyone choose to be on Lens over other decentralized protocols?
Got it, got it. Yeah, we talked about this somewhat at the beginning, but I'll kind of just give an idea around my
Yeah, I
opinion.
think I
And
missed that.
again, I
Sorry
don't.
about that.
Oh no, it's okay for sure. And again, like it's easy for me to kind of say what like I think, but in practice, I always encourage people to actually experiment and try like all of the options out there, and like use the one that they like the best. And ultimately, it's us, like in our team, we have a vision and we think that what we're building is going to be like the best and all of that. That's why we're here. But I think that me trying to convince people of that is not the right. And instead, like I like to encourage people to try everything, and then provide feedback around like what we can do to make what we're working on better, because ultimately we need to provide like the biggest and best value proposition out there. But I also think that there isn't going to be like a single like winner in this space. Instead, I think that we're going to see a lot of different options that are going to simultaneously exist and all of that. But with that being said, there are a lot of things that you just can't do like on Farcaster, or you can't do right now on Blue Sky. You can't do on Twitter. You can't do on Mastodon. There's a lot of drawbacks, especially I think for Mastodon. That's one example. If you like kind of look at how their federated system works, if you join a group there, then anyone that is running that can actually read all of your direct messages. For example, they have full censorship over you. So, for instance, someone posted something about running a business, like in, I guess, in that on Mastodon, about how to like more efficiently and all like having to do with like running companies or something like that. Anyway, they got banned because like the person that was running that said there are no capitalists that are allowed into my Mastodon instance. So imagine like spending like a couple of years building up your following on a social media platform like that, and then someone just says, "Oh, I don't like what you said," like you're gone. So that's a huge drawback, I think, of anything that's has control or centralized. So we're like blocking. Let's just say like, okay, that eliminates like that segment of the apps. Now we have Farcaster, we have Blue Sky, we have these others. So one of the things I talked about earlier is like native monetization. I think that being able to connect directly with your audience is like a big thing for creators. So therefore, we're getting a lot of high quality creators, and I think ultimately that's like what you want to do. You want to have the highest quality creators, and that's going to draw the rest of the users. And being able to kind of like have that type of engagement, I would say that isn't possible on other platforms just because of the nature of the infrastructure, is really a big draw. But again, these are more like creatives. These aren't like the academics that you might see posting threads on AI or something yet, on Lens or something like that. So we don't have like that audience, I would say, as much. But I think that one of the other big value propositions is just the number of high quality apps that are like on Lens, because instead of Lens being an app, we're just a protocol, and therefore we have, in my opinion, like a few dozen really polished apps, but really over a couple of hundred apps that are still being developed. And you know, when you have all these different options to kind of choose from, that definitely sets it apart. Because if I want to use Farcaster, I think there's just like the Farcaster app. That's like the main one. I know they have a developer ecosystem, so maybe I'm like not that educated about some of the other apps that are out there. But on Lens right now, we have quite a few. We have Orb, Butterfly, Lenster, LensTube, Inso, and that's just like a handful of the ones I like to use. So I think that with our focus on developer experience and our focus on building out all of the tools to make it easier and easier, we're going to see even more apps like over the next 6 to 12 months. So having like that big diversity of applications, having that high quality user base of creators, we think that those are a couple of different key differentiators. And we're not targeting like the tech bro segment of Twitter that we see kind of migrating away from Twitter into these other apps and like going one by one. Instead, we're getting like a really diverse group of people from all around the world. And I think that is really cool to see. And it's hard to kind of replicate that.
Well, that's very impressive. I mean, one fear that I've always had is, waking up one day and then my Twitter account is gone. I don't know. I spend so much time on Twitter, creating content and just building a very good profile, and then it happens. I've seen a lot of people that it happens to, and then they have to start afresh. I mean, the censorship resistance part, I think that's plus one. And then earlier you mentioned that you it's not something that you would really want to say much on, but you like when users use the platform and give their feedback. And when I'm speaking, I know I'm not speaking for just myself, that there are a few of us here who are not on Lens. So I don't know, could you give us some tips, or what we could do so that we could have a Lens profile and then explore the platform? Could you share that with us? How easy is it to
Yeah.
get a Lens
So
profile, or how difficult?
very very soon we're gonna be open. So we have two things that we're doing that will be opening it up to basically everyone in the world. And the reason it's a closed beta right now is because we had to solve those scalability issues that I mentioned before that we rolled out the fixes for recently. And also we want to solve like Sybil resistance, and we have some really interesting stuff that's going to be happening around I can't even explain it because it's like very, very, like I would say private. That is, that isn't like, I'm not allowed to talk about it until it goes public. Um, but like we're rolling out a lot of really cool stuff that will enable basically what our vision was for permissionless access. But yeah, like early on, they had to solve scalability, they had to solve Sybil resistance. So therefore, we were onboarding like a few thousand people every week or something, and then now we are going to be rolling out sometime soon a, completely open process for anyone just to get on a wait list, and then they'll be notified by email or however communication they choose with their handle, which will like really open the door to a really simple like process for getting a lens handle, because right now it's not that straightforward. That's very frustrating for a lot of people. They hear about lens, they want to try it out. Oh, I want to get a handle. Like oh, you can't get one. That kind of sucks, So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be having a very straightforward process for that. And then down the road from that, we want to again make it completely permissionless, and that's kind of what we're working towards now. So if you build an Apple Lens, you just have a sign up button, and then you go to that app and you click sign up. If you don't have a handle, you'll just create one. If you do have a handle, you can sign in with that. So it'll be a lot easier in a very short amount of time. So apologies though for anyone that hasn't been able to get on, but we're excited about like how we are going to make that a lot easier and in a very short amount of period of time.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Kali, over to you. Thank you very much.
Yes, that was awesome. Rushi, did you want to ask your question, share your opinion now? Feel free to unmic. I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, thanks for that. Neda, I would like to first, like, huge fan, man. I would like to appreciate your work at Developer DAO. Like, that is the coolest community for me in like Web3 domain. Yeah,
That's
and
awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the shout out for that.
yeah. So actually, as your platform is like kind of decentralized social media app, and we're building something, not the social media app, but around like that, we are building a platform called Actual One. And Actual One is like a platform where people can collect micro gig bounties, and it will be like a profile building platform. Upon that
Are you building
platform,
that already on Lens?
we would like to. I mean, it would be like dream come true for us to work on your ecosystem.
Have you checked out some of our documentation and or anything? Have you tried building, or do you have any questions about how that would go for you?
Yeah, I would love to know about that. To be honest, we would like to work like build on lens, but yeah, we still have some doubts and things.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, we have new developers that are kind of starting to build on Lens every week, and
Yeah, yeah.
really all you need to do is just go into our docs, and we have all of the APIs. They're completely open and public. People are able to you should be able to get started building without anything on our end. It just is it would be like going to again something like Auth0 and wanting to implement authentication with Lens. You would go and you would implement like social features, and you don't have to have a handle, by the way. Like if you're building on Lens, you can deploy and all of that your application. But if you get into the developer ecosystem and community, like and you're trying to ship your app, you will
Yeah.
probably need a handle just to sit in production, and then we would completely be happy to set that up. If you're a developer, like building on Lens, we can get that set up pretty easily.
Damn, that's insane. Can we have a meet with my team and you if possible? Is it possible for you?
We to have a meeting. We'd be happy. Yeah, we'd be happy to set up a time to chat or answer any questions like that on like async as well. Either one, whatever works better for you. Like if you have any specific questions, you could shoot them over, and then we could like get those taken care of. And then if we were unable to answer all of your questions, we could hop on a meeting.
Yeah, I need to talk with uh, actually, to be honest, I need to talk with other people, other members in the team for that thing.
Awesome. Well, I think that next steps is you should probably follow up with what Nader had mentioned and connect from there if you wanted to connect after you talk to your team. But yeah, thanks for your questions.
Cool. Thank you. I'll surely connect with Nader. Thank you, Nader. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you. Yes.
Cool.
uh,
Bye.
one of the last questions. Oh, sorry. No, I don't want to talk over anybody. One of the last questions we actually had here was about Developer DAO because we saw that you, founder of Developer DAO. Did you want to share a little bit about that and, um, just briefly, like, how did that get started, and for anybody that's interested in maybe having a community of developers, what is it actually like, and what kind of happens with Developer DAO?
Yeah, Developer DAO has been a jumping or a starting ground for like hundreds of devs, I think, that are now really enjoying and kind of like like currently in Web3 with high quality jobs that kind of got started through that community. Like we have people that are like literally leading companies and organizations and starting their own companies, getting funding, and having director type of roles that kind of started through the Developer DAO. And I say that just to give you like an idea of like what the main purpose is. It's mainly like a starting ground for developers that want to get their foot in the door and either building their own company or getting a job in the industry. And if you are like a protocol or a company, Developer DAO is a way for you to connect to those like caliber of people and also get awareness through the network that we have. Like we have 80,000 followers there on Twitter, but we also have thousands of developers, each with their own network. So you can kind of like use Developer DAO to get your product or protocol or thing out there to all these devs for them to try out and maybe give you feedback and stuff like that. But the way that it started is essentially just by like having the idea of what that vision would be and putting it out there. And then a bunch of people kind of came together and built it. I had a very minor part in that, even though I like initially created it. Everyone else really are the ones that kind of built it out, and it still runs to this day, like as a decentralized organization. Like I'm not there on a day-to-day basis making decisions and doing that stuff. We have groups of people that filter in and out, that are doing that. We have a leadership team and all of that, but it's more of like a community effort, and I have like a minor part in it. But I definitely was the person, like, that had fun starting it and being more involved in it at certain times. It just kind of depends, like what I'm doing at the time, like how involved I am. But for the most part, after the first few months, it's kind of taken a life on its own, and a lot of like really talented people have been the ones that have made it what it is today.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Above, if you for anybody listening, if you wanted to swipe above, we've posted Nader's Twitter, Lens Protocol, the social Twitter, and also Developer DAO. So feel free to check out those and give them a follow. I'm gonna wrap it up. I really loved the identity sovereignty. I think like when I first got into, I would say Web3 or blockchain, that was really the biggest thing for me: financial sovereignty, um, data sovereignty, and identity sovereignty. And that was a big part of like a lot of the people that I was around at the time. And then it kind of like shifted almost, and people weren't talking about it as much. And then it's like finding the people that are building things and talking about it still. It's amazing. Um, and yeah, I will also post in our Discord the links to Lens and everything if anybody wants to check it out and check out some of the apps that are being built. Uh, um, Mariana, sorry, I always go to call you Mariana or Melody. Did you want to add anything else before we close?
Only tell you how much we appreciate to have you here today, Nader. It was really interesting, everything you had to say. And I'm really looking forward to have my handle and Lens. So I'll be checking all the updates. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.